Us. As always, I'm going to start off with a little bit of housekeeping. So as you've probably already seen, we are live streaming today's session and we are recording it. If you get disconnected from Zoom at any point or you have any audio issues, just go over to our YouTube channel. You can check out the session there and you'll be able to follow along and even throw in your comments in the chat. We'll try and keep up with those if you have any questions there, and we'll ask them to our team. As always, we are going to have some company and product updates from ourselves, and then we're going to move into the audience Q&A section. You can use the written Q&A function at the bottom of your screen if you'd like to ask questions throughout. When we get to the audience Q&A section at the end, you'll also have the ability to raise your hand and come on stage to ask questions. To do that, you'll be able to use the reaction button and then use the raise hand button within that there. Okay. So I'm just going to briefly pause on the disclaimer that we always have to show up before we start. And then I'm going to go on to one marketing piece of housekeeping as well. So upcoming in April, we have our very own online conference that myself and a bunch of other fantastic people have been helping to plan. And we really want to encourage people to check this out and get registered for this event. This is happening over 2 days, April 10th to the 11th, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Pacific time. That's 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern time. And this is really going to be a fantastic event that's focused on bringing a bunch of partners from the industry, a bunch of thought leaders from the industry, to provide tools and strategies to help you grow as a short-term rental host. And basically, the talks are going to be focused mostly around direct and AI and using those to basically help you to grow. There's going to be a number of topics. This is just a few of them. We're going to have our very own Pierre and Andrew doing some sessions. We're going to have the lovely folks from Boostly and Stayfi, Wheelhouse Price Labs, and a bunch more other people. So yeah, I really encourage you to go ahead and get registered. It's a completely free event. You do need to register if you'd like to access any of the videos. Even if you want to access the recordings after the fact, you're going to have to go ahead and register. We're not going to be putting these publicly available. It's all going to be kind of gated for just those people that are registered. So please, I encourage you to go and check that out. I'm going to hover for a second too on that QR code, or just go and use that short link at the bottom. And then otherwise, I'm going to pass over to Pierre to provide a few team updates. Pierre, I think that's time for you.
Hello, everyone, and welcome from Brussels in my new flat with the same haircut. That's the message that I tried to send on the chat. Unfortunately, I didn't say today, everyone. I sent it just to the host and panelists. So, team, we are at 53 as promised for the end of March. And the last addition so far to our team is basically based out of Ohio. So just a recap, we're a globally distributed team in 20 plus countries. Yeah, we just have a new addition to our marketing team whose name is Gabby, who is actually here traveling mostly around Ohio and Hawaii, and she has the right little pill, they're all nice. So Gabby, what are you doing? What's special about you? What are you going to be working on at Hospitable?
Hello, everyone. I'm Gabby. I am the social and creative coordinator here now at Hospitable. Very excited to be a part of the team and just indulge myself in the social realm, but also just all things marketing. A little bit behind me is I do split my time between Ohio and Hawaii. So right now I'm in not very sunny Ohio, actually very snowy. So that's a little unfortunate, but I have a background with companies from CPG to SaaS platforms, influencers to social media. And then a little bit about me is that I was a digital nomad for a year. I took off to 30 different countries and really indulged in the short-term rental space on Airbnb within my travels. So I could travel and work at the same time. And then also I'm a beekeeper. So that's my hobby. I absolutely love it. I have some bees in Hawaii, Ohio, and Michigan. I saw we have somebody from Michigan here. So very exciting. Thank you all.
We do have a few. Thank you, Gabby, the beekeeper. We do have a few still open positions. So if you want to join our team, you're welcome to apply. We have pushed live recently the head of support position. We talked about that in your previous channel about what the mission for that particular role entails. And we're also progressing with interviews for software engineering roles. God knows we need more of those. So we're really looking for recruiting across other teams between core and connectivity, platform, and direct product lines. So yeah, you can find out more on that little website, hsptb.com/apply, and you can obviously zoom on the QR code to send your applications. This is still ongoing. The director of support, there's a bit of a hold up. It's on my side. It's been a busy week. So it's going to wait probably a few more days before it's added live. But just as a highlight, the head of support is really, we're looking for a people manager that can currently manage about half of the company and basically help us handle 20 times the load that we're facing today. And talking about customer support load, it's been quite a week. And so I wanted to share an update, obviously, about what happened around billing, because billing is not something that should ever have to come up on a town hall, if we're being honest. So again, sharing the context, the first thing is basically looking at this map. So unfortunately, on this session, I'm a bit of a maps guy. There is something wrong with this picture. 90% of our customers are based in the United States, with the usual suspects in the top states like California, Texas, and Florida, obviously a very attractive vacation rental and short-term rental market. And you have that little country with the pin, which is Estonia, which actually we've had maybe 1 or 2 customers historically. And that's where the company was created initially. And that's where we are charging all our customers worldwide from. And it's a bit disconnected, especially when getting a bit of an insight into, let's be European here for 1 second, to American cultures. American culture, it's really, you buy from an American company from an American customer, and that's basically what makes the experience frictionless. And so we wanted to do something of the same, since we basically played around with subsidiaries a bit worldwide, tied with direct or tied with fundraising. And so we wanted to divide the world between our 2 business entities. We have set in motion, starting from November, a project where we'll be charging our US-based customers from our US entity. We'd be charging our customers in Australia from our Australian entity, and expanding over to all of Asia Pacific customers being charged by that Australian entity, with the rest of the world, mostly therefore Europe, Middle East, Africa, and Latin America, to be charged by the current company based in Estonia, because we believe that's where there was little friction, less friction as of the payment part. So we set this project in motion as of November. I just want to highlight that this was really based on feedback and the difficulties that our business is facing with dealing with international elements, so to speak. On the previous panel, I actually asked a survey, a poll, to understand how many of our customers were being charged by their banks an extra fee as a result of being charged by a company out of Estonia with an American credit card. I don't exactly remember the number, but I think it was in the 20 to 30% customers that had been charged an extra fee on top of what Hospitable would be charging based on this international or overseas component. 20 to 30% of customers that are being invoiced extra fees monthly, and obviously turn back to our customer support team to ask, why are you charging me $42 when you've been invoicing me for $40? Do you are pocketing an extra $2? And it's absolutely not documented. That's not the great conversation that we would like to have with our customers. In general, I'm not surprised. There is also certain friction with international payments. Is that, for example, you want to enter a card, but it's blocked for international transaction, or it's going to be flagged because it's a country so far away that you've never traveled to. So this basically introduced a little bit of friction on doing business. Obviously, there is an additional cost on payment processing. And so we want to manage that for like every business. And that basically created a general problem where the fact that we have that company historically in Estonia charging customers mostly in the United States created basically a few conversations, for example, with sales or with support teams. And that's kind of a problem. Now, we also wanted to that was basically all the reasons why we wanted to have this international invoicing through multiple entities, so that we are generally closer to our customers and can fit right into their normal expectations of buying software. There are also new features that come with an upgrade, really significant upgrade of that billing system, let's call it like that, that really would be helping with internationalization, with packaging. Our product is getting more complex. We have started doing upsells like direct, premium, basic, like priority support. And this basically all adds up, and we don't want to be having developers building and maintaining building features. We would like for them to obviously build more features that benefit you around AI, around connectivity, around direct, around platform, rather than basically having to look at features to build ourselves to charging our customers. So we did that big thing. We decided to bite the bullet. Starting in November, it was, it's not on/off, but basically it was in between other work, so that's why it lasted a little bit longer. We had previously done several migrations with that existing vendor of a similar nature. You may have noticed them, but it was really if you were in narrow and specific situations. We learned from those mistakes, and so when we were briefing, for preparing for that migration, it was something that we paid attention to, similar to a lot of details, and we took our time to gain confidence that we will not, this process, this migration will not have any customer impact. Next slide. We were wrong. That's quite an understatement. It had quite a bit of an unusual customer impact, both by the number of people impacted and by the severity of the impact on all customers. So we had this expectation, everything will be going fine. And it's like we were caught red-handed in the cookie, under the cookie jar about, oh, you're doing something that's rather important and very significant. I don't know anything about it, and now I cannot do anything about it. So that was a very embarrassing moment. Now, what actually happened? Well, in the preparation of that migration, we established a procedure. And that procedure, fortunately, a few steps were not followed correctly. To be clear, the migration process started at 2 a.m. Eastern time. And so there were multiple validation or steps. And when it was the time to really complete the production migration, that's when there were steps that were missed, contrary to, for example, in test or sandbox environments earlier, where everything was going closely to what we were expecting. The biggest problem and the reason why on the 13th of March you could not access Hospitable for a few hours is the fact that as a result of the migration, all subscriptions were immediately canceled with immediate effect. And so our application, when it knows about it, for example, with a webhook that vendor will be sending us, is going to immediately like block access to your entire account. No messages being sent, nothing, everything is basically going on hold and standby. And it was absolutely not the experience, obviously, that we were contemplating. Obviously, on top of that, all the emails were sent to about 97% of our customer base to tell them, hey, it's canceled now, which obviously created panic all across the board, across the entire company. So the other part, that part was dumb. There was no justification whatsoever to having a subscription canceling immediately. It could be lasting until the next renewal date and then canceled at the end of term, like we typically actually cancel subscriptions. We basically could have done that. It would have never have any impact whatsoever. But we could have been saved if basically we knew that there was a new subscription from the new system taking over immediately. And that's when it failed again, is that basically it created a gap when subscriptions were canceled with immediate effect, but would be resuming on the new system at a future date when you normally would have renewed. So if a subscription was, let's say, renewing on the 10th of March, it would be renewing, renewing on the 10th of April. There was no subscription between the 13th of March and the 10th of April. And so that gap is the reason why, again, you could not get access. If we had been able to recover, having a new subscription taking over immediately, we would have been able to resume access. And obviously, nothing was sent as a result for that. So that caused a 4-hour outage. The engineering team, it was quite late for us in Europe at that time. we were all obviously mobilized. I was preparing that email, and the entire team basically started working not only on fetching the accurate reservation, the accurate subscription status from the new system, and obviously taking over on the impact that would have caused. So making sure that all the actions that would have been taken by Hospitable would have been recovering. So some messages being sent, some operation messages being sent, codes being created. And that, quite frankly, I think, if I'm honest, that took us a little bit more time to basically make sure that when your account resumes, we are able to resend those messages. It probably extended the duration of the outage, something we're taking for feedback, because we wanted to make sure that the account would resume as expected, and we'll be correcting some issues during that outage window rather than now. So that's the thing. It's basically something that is a bit unheard of in depth and in scope. So I'm asking you a genuine question because I want to hear, obviously, how you live this on your own way. There's definitely been a lot of posts on social media. But seriously, from business owners to business owners, what do you feel we could have done differently? It's a genuine question because we obviously never want anything of the same sort to ever happen again. But I want to understand what your needs are and how realistic they are to be met, obviously on our side, so we can bring that along whenever we're doing something that, again, may not have a genuine impact, where we are preparing for weeks and then ultimately the worst happens and we are basically completely disconnected from the plan at that point in time. So share that with me on the chat. I'm sure there will be some Q&A questions, so I'll be welcoming them, etc. So for example, we have Andrew send out a planned outage notice to users. That's something that obviously we're talking about internally. We literally we're doing those things a lot of times, and then the challenge is that there are banners upon banners upon banners, and that's basically make the messages harder to hear over time. So yeah, let's talk about that in the Q&A section. Meanwhile, we have some updates on AI. So Andrew, welcome to share some updates on AI.
Sure. Well, starting with, AI is now going to be its own section for town halls. And that's a very trivial change. The bigger change is we had a discussion in our exec sync this week and decided that really we weren't happy with the velocity of the AI improvements in the product, and basically wanted to double down on our principles that it's important that we are AI first, that AI is built in at the PMS layer. It's the only way that I think we can act in the long-term interest of our customers to do the best job delivering all of the potential of AI. So that was a great meeting. We're bringing more developer resources on board so we can move faster. We're bringing more management attention, I think, to those products and those features. So there's going to be a lot more exciting things to come is the message. What you've seen recently, the improve with AI function, this got improved just in the last few days with tone improvements. I think the general feedback so far on improve with AI was the tone was off. I think it was too professional, too long-winded, didn't sound natural language. We want it to be natural language. So if you tried that recently, give it another try. So we had this GIF on last week, and if you go back in the town hall from last week, you can see the actual answer that it was generating was much worse. So we're happy with those improvements. And this is a great way just to get a quick message out to the guests. But instead of starting from the suggest with AI, you can go ahead and prompt the AI to get more likely to a successful reply that you want. Coming very soon, we're doing a refactor of basically a right side panel. This is not what it may exactly look like. It's still a little bit early on this right side panel, but one of the reasons we're doing that is it's giving us more room to add more resources, including potential third-party integrations, more financial data, et cetera. One of the things we're doing is we're rebuilding guest insights, and we're going to start introducing basically an AI summary of host reviews on your guest. So you got used to seeing those reviews there, how hosts, might have I don't know, said unique traits about this guest, things they like, dislike. And we're going to pull those out and summarize them. So if you don't want to read all the reviews of this guest, we'll try and do a good job of training this prompt to bring out unique things that you should focus on that might be important to their stay and give you a better chance at getting that 5-star review. So those are AI summaries and guest insights. And then big changes on reviews. So 2 places. One is reviews from guests. So we're going to start actually adding those as kind of a new class of messages in the inbox. So when the guest gives you a review, we'll give you a notification that you got a message. It'll show the review, and we'll have already drafted a reply for you. So those will also take your feedback on tone as we do that, and you'll have a reply ready to go. Once this prompt has been refined, I don't think we'll need any edits, and you'll get one click button from mobile or from desktop to go ahead and issue a public reply to the review from the guest to get that good engagement that the platforms like to see. And then the actual review of the guest. So one thing that will be killed with this is static review templates. Right now, how our review feature works, it is another generation of the product. We no longer need to rely on that, and we're going to move towards personalized reviews in your tone of voice for all reviews. We're going to bring better visibility to those again in the inbox, so you're going to be able to see those. We want you to be able to trust the prompt. We want you to be able to personalize the prompt with your tone of voice again. And then once that's trusted, it'll really run on autopilot for you in a much better way, I think, than our current review product works. After that, it's really getting on to the bigger projects. Again, why I said that it's important, that we believe it's important for the PMS to own the AI, is we're going to start really refactoring big parts of our product. So things like questions is not going to need your input going forward. Things like guest experience will not need your input going forward. They're going to have more context. They're going to be not need to be maintained, not need to be edited when you make changes to your properties, etc. They're going to be able to have real-time context, like weather context, like local attraction context, those kind of things. We have to own the AI. We have to be the ones integrating it to really rip out those core features and update them to the current generation of technology. So those are the big projects. Those are going to take a while to integrate, but the 4 things that we just talked about tonight, those are going to be on a much faster time scale with the new resources we're putting at those. So yeah, really excited for the big update to reviews going forward. Okay, moving on to direct updates. Lots of small updates. So promo codes. We did do an update recently to say you could tell us that you didn't want them to stack with length of stay discounts. We did a very quick implementation and get that out the door. It was kind of dumb. When you did that, it just didn't let you use a promo code if there was a length of stay discount. Now we make it smarter, and we take the greater of the discount. So the guest is always able to add a promo code, and we'll tell them if the length of stay discount is actually the better discount for them, or we'll give them the promo code discount if that's the greater discount. So that's just a small update on promo codes. Lots of UI, UX improvements on property search. This is something that it took us a while to get back to after we launched the property search update. That was a huge update. We think that really did have a great impact on conversion rate for hosts, especially those with lots of properties. So now we're getting into some of kind of the tweaks and more edge case kind of things, but little updates like auto scroll. So especially on mobile, when you would open the menu for the calendar or the guest count, sometimes that would be off the screen. Now we kind of automatically correct for that. So it's a better better user experience there. Some people would mention that you could click in some places expecting that the menu would collapse, but it wouldn't. So we fixed that. Some of these went live just before this town hall, so you'll need to go look at them now. And then we added icons to the search bar just to make it clear which was a location field, what was a check-in, check-out field, what was a guest count field, just to help people familiarize themselves better with that search bar. Moving on. We had feedback from town halls that some people didn't want to have a location dropdown. If your houses are only in one property and you don't want them to be shown, then you can now, if you remove all of the locations, we'll just remove that field from your search bar. That'll work the same on a Hospitable site as a custom site if you're using our widget, a self-hosted site, I mean. So you can now go to a 2-field menu if you prefer that, just by removing all locations. Otherwise, once you add locations back, you'll see that 3rd field again. So you can do a location dropdown. And again, those are completely customizable. If you want to make your own locations that they can search by, you can add those and help people kind of discover your personal location. Another update on property search. One of the, I think, maybe the more controversial decisions we made is we always return available and unavailable properties. We want people to be able to discover all of your locations, even if they enter search terms that don't match. That has less good results for people with lots of properties. What we were missing, I think, is really a way to distinguish them. And so this was based on feedback from hosts. We added kind of like the H1 header text between the two separate lists of available and unavailable. And then we went to like a 50% opacity on the unavailable property. So I think it's much more clear now to guess which ones are not available for the search terms they entered. One note on the legacy booking widgets. This has been a hard one for us. We've had a hard time communicating with hosts that are using these. If you were early to direct and you got a booking widget from the property section, it no longer exists. But if you got this a long time ago, this really limits our capabilities to do things with direct. We've been planning to phase these out for a long time. One of the reasons we're phasing them out is they're hard to track. And so it's been hard to communicate with people. We started just printing this message. So the way to know if you have a legacy widget is it's going to say that on your widget now. So if you don't know, you can check your site. If you have a Hospitable site, this does not pertain to you. This is not relevant to you if you're using Hospitable site. This is only for people that are using their own site. They built a custom site themselves, added the widgets. You need to make sure that you have the latest widget version because these will stop to return availability, targeting the end of the month for that. So we're still trying to communicate with some people. Please look into that if you haven't, and you'll need to get into direct and create a self-hosted site if you haven't to get the latest widgets for that. Otherwise, what the team is working on, the big project. So we haven't released a whole lot of updates on these yet, but tax filing and remittance is still a big technical project that's underway. We have shipped a few of the quote improvements that we're working on, kind of going back to like a V2 of the custom quote project. So what we've updated so far, you're going to see more of the reservation status in the inbox. So you can tell if the guest has provided a valid payment method, if they're going through guest vetting, if you're on the premium side and we have to do guest vetting, if that guest vetting is now under review by Hospitable because it was flagged for some kind of a risk. You'll see that status now, so you'll be able to be more aware of that. We also updated the reservation status and the custom quote. So when it's a custom quote, we kind of changed instead of submitting a request to book, it's now just a booking action. So some small improvements there, but overall there's some bigger changes coming to quotes. Same with alterations. So the big update that we're trying to do there is alterations sometimes fail because we're trying to charge the payment method on file. We're going to do a better job of helping the guest add a backup payout method, payment method, or add another credit card if the current credit card on file is not able to take that charge. So we'll make those a little bit smoother to get through. And that's the side from direct, and I'll pass it to smart locks.
So in the world of smart locks, for the device dashboard that is still currently in public beta, today we released a new setup page. This will allow all of those all of your smart device accounts to be seen and connected and managed all in one place. And we've also kind of streamlined our settings to make it a little bit more understandable, not a big, block of text. We'll also, of course, have those new options to delete and reconnect device accounts where we didn't have that previously. So anyone with your beta features enabled and with devices connected, you can check that out now. And let's see, for the next slide. Releasing tomorrow, big news for the device dashboard is notifications. So you will be able to enable notifications for when a code has been first used by a guest, whether the battery of one of your devices is low, and you're actually going to be able to set the threshold for when a low battery is considered low. By default, it'll be 30%, but lots of locks, lots of different preferences around that. Maybe you're a long ways away, or maybe it's just a really difficult lock that runs out fast. So you can set those differently for yours. And of course, any action required issues, those will be enabled, at least by default, in the dashboard. So you will have this lovely little dashboard notifications section in the device dashboard, and you'll also be able to enable push and email. And so next week, we're looking to release this to all users. So it'll be out of beta. And then once we release that to everyone, the upcoming features that you'll see after this public release is sending messages based on the code used status. So, that could be maybe messages to your teammates or messages. We'll probably start with messages to the guest. Had a lot of requests for this in our private feedback group around, wanting to send certain messages if somebody has or hasn't checked in by a certain time. You'll also be able to see a full activity log of everything going on, be able to bulk create operations codes across multiple properties for anyone that's been trying to do that. And I know that's kind of a big issue, or not a big issue, but kind of a big pain of, you have to create each one individually, but that will be coming. And we will also have, more improvements with those notifications, adding more notification options and better redirects for where you get sent with the push notifications that are about to come out. And that is the big for our smart locks updates. For core and connectivity, the big news with Booking.com is that we now allow non-standard rate plans and allowing you to increase your prices per extra guest. Previously, we couldn't connect those kinds of listings. Now we can, which in turn not only gives you a lot more pricing options, but also makes that whole connection process, that's going to be a lot smoother for you. And just result in a lot less stuff you have to do beforehand. You can just roll on. It'll be a lot easier to connect. So anyone that has started to connect Booking.com and you got too frustrated with it, understand, please try it again. It should be a lot easier for you. We also, as a quick note, for anyone who did try, there was like 4 days there where the Booking.com quick setup wizard was having some issues. That was fixed pretty quick. It was kind of over the weekend. But yeah, that was everything for Booking.com, and I will pass you on to Emily.
Cool, thanks. Alyssa is serious. It is so much easier. I'm one of those hosts who tried to connect Booking.com at one point and probably gave up. And I retried it as a part of, helping the team test, and it was super easy, super quick. And I already have several Booking.com reservations, which I was actually quite surprised by because it's not super common for our area. So it really is a lot easier. So I do encourage everybody to try it out if you haven't already. Okay, cool. Couple updates to wrap us up. One, returning to password logins. So a few weeks ago, we implemented magic links where when you go to log in, you put your email, we send you an email, it gives you a link, you click on it, and bam, you're logged in. This is something that's pretty standard as a part of two-factor authentication, but we have some other things we can do to make this a lot easier so that we're not doing that to you every single time, because it is quite annoying to have to go to your email every time you want to log in. One quick thing that we already improved, we extended the expiration time on that magic link. So originally when we released it, that link was only good for 5 minutes. And we heard from a lot of you that live in areas with slower connection that sometimes you wouldn't even receive the email within 5 minutes. By the time you got it, the link was dead. So we did extend the expiration time so that it lives a little bit longer to alleviate that issue. We're going to move back to email and password login once you have gone through that magic link process once. So again, this is a standard 2FA thing. We'll be able to start recognizing devices so that we don't ask you again. You can remember devices. You can forget devices if you're like logged in on your, I was going to say library computer, but I don't know if anybody goes to the library to use computers anymore. But if you do, you don't have to remember that computer. So yeah, point is we are going to try to make this easier for you with security in mind and continuing to move forward on our 2FA implementation. All right, next. Okay, just some other kind of random fixes, improvements, but some very meaningful ones. First, minimum night stay sync is back. This has been something that has not worked for some time, and now it is working. So we're sorry about that. We heard from many of you that it wasn't working, and it was difficult to get to the bottom of, and it is now fixed. So what this means is if in your sync settings you have minimum night stay sync enabled, we will now take the minimum night stay from your lead listing, we'll pull that into Hospitable and push it out to all the other platforms. Now we do this sync every 4.5 hours. And if at any point it fails in that time, we'll try it again in 4.5 hours. So you can rest assured that that minimum night stay sync will work from this point forward. And then just like a point of clarification and something that we've been having a lot of discussions about internally is how syncs work at all. So we have these like individual syncs, minimum night stay sync being one of them, that pulls from a lead listing and pushes out. But you can also set your minimum night stay from your Hospitable calendar. And I do want to take the time to clarify that if you ever do that, if you ever change something on your Hospitable calendar, whether it be the minimum night stay, the pricing, availability, that pushes out to all the other platforms immediately. That's not dependent on this 4.5 hour refresh rate. That has been working all along and is something that you can continue to do, even if you don't want to use the lead listing concept here. Next, some improvements to our task checklist. So they weren't auto-saving properly before. The funny thing was it looked like it was and it wasn't. And so that was creating some confusion. So now it's auto-saving and there's a lot better UX around this. So you can just hit enter to save. You can click off of it to save and you can update tasks now, or excuse me, you can update checklists for tasks that pre-existed and already had checklists that can be updated now. Okay, let's see, next slide, last slide, scalability improvements. So these are things that sometimes are not super fun to talk about because you're like, well, how is this actually helping me, right? But this is gonna set a foundation and pave the way for us to be able to move quicker and do some things that you guys have been asking us for a long time. So scalability improvements. Under guest experience and operations, we give you the ability to look at your logs. Logs can get very, very big, especially for those of you who have lots of properties and have been with us for a really long time. So these are a lot faster now to load. An example, in one really large account that we looked at, it used to take over 10 seconds to load this logs page, and now it loads in 500 milliseconds. So a lot faster, that's really great. And then we've also been making some scalability improvements to the calendar. So Autumn, our front-end engineer, described this really cool internally. We have this huge calendar, right? And imagine every single little cell of the calendar. That has to load, right? Now, if you have a couple of properties, that's manageable. If you have pages and pages of properties, you can see how that can get big really fast. So we've made a change to where we're not going to attempt to load like a cell that's like way over there that we're not looking at yet. We only load the data in those individual cells like when you're about to look at it, like when you're almost there, when you're scrolling. So this does a couple of things for us right off the bat. This decreases our initial load time of the calendar, especially for people who have a lot of properties. And then it also decreases lag or jumpiness that you might see when you're scrolling horizontally. So we've heard of requests to allow infinite scrolling there, right? Right now, we only allow you to go, I think it's 6 months in the future, and we don't allow you to go back. So this change, like while it doesn't do that yet, it kind of sets us up to be able to make some changes like that in the future as we see the demand. So yep, those are the scalability improvements today. Back to Miles, I think we're gonna move on to some Q&A.
Thank you very much. We are indeed. Okay, folks, if you didn't already know, this is the Q&A section of our town hall. So if you want to ask a question, go down to the bottom, use the reaction button, and then use raise hand, and then we will start to let people on stage. And we already have a few hands up. So Quinton, I'm going to invite you on stage now. Hello.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Hey,
Hello, Quinton. How can we help you today?
So quick question. First, just to follow up on the minimum night sync. So I just want to make sure I understand how it operates and how it interplays with a pricing tool like Price Labs, where I set my minimum night sync. So I guess how does that interplay with the lead listing functionality that was just described?
Yeah, so I'll try to kind of answer this broadly, but there might be some specifics that you want to get into, which we probably can do offline. So you're using a dynamic pricing tool. Is that connected to Hospitable, or are you connecting that to a listing, like to Airbnb or something?
Directly to Hospitable, Price Labs.
Okay, cool. So you should see no change then, because anything updated to the Hospitable calendar pushes out to all the platforms appropriately, and that's good to go. The change specifically that I was talking about is a minimum night stay sync where we actually pick up minimum night stay changes on another platform. So like You might decide you want to control things in Airbnb for some reason. You can set that as your lead listing, and then you can control minimum night stay from Airbnb on that calendar. We would pull it in and push it to all the other calendars. But if you have Price Labs connected to Hospitable, that's not really something that you need to play around with or worry about.
Got it. Okay. Well, that explains it then. I thought it was working smooth. I was wondering, hey, what's changed?
Yeah.
But no, that's the great news I wanted to hear. And I got one more question. So it's regarding I believe it's termed as the conversation view for the inbox. So when you're actually able to send messages to a guest, I know we've made kind of a number of changes to like that header that's on the top. And I think this was within the past maybe 3 weeks to a month. I notice every time I am typing out my message on my mobile, which some of the screen is being absorbed by the actual QWERTY keyboard, I can't actually see what I'm typing. And even if I kind of scroll the page to see what my cursor is and begin typing, sometimes, and I've noticed not every time, but I'll say about half the time the screen will jump up again and I can't see what I'm typing. So I'm kind of like relying on my autocorrect that's immediately above my keyboard to tell me like even what I've typed out. And I kind of want to combine that with some additional feedback because I think this contributes to the limited space to see what I'm typing.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, that's obviously not what we want. We did make a change in about that time frame to ideally to improve a lot of things, to use the space more intelligently. It looks like we probably missed a check on your device. Be curious if anyone else has seen this. But what device are you using, Quentin?
So I'm on an Android. It's a Samsung S21.
Okay. Yeah, we'll look back. We've got some logging that we do on our side, and we'll try and research that device type and see we've probably missed something where we need to adjust the height differently for your device. Sometimes it can be really hard, especially with custom keyboards, where we might not be getting the right information, but that's all in the details. So we'll take a look.
Got it. And just one thing I wanted to layer with that, the information that's displayed at the top, and you guys called it something, I'm not sure, but it's where it shows the name, where they're from, their time zone and things like that. I think the importance of those details varies based on whether the guest is staying versus reaching out to book. So for example, where they're from and maybe the language they speak, I think is important during those initial conversations. But it really doesn't matter much once they've already booked because you've likely already kind of communicated with them and know their language and also kind of know where they're from. And the same thing I would put in that category would be the reviews, right? It's part of that initial assessment of that guest. But seeing that after they're staying in your listing, so for several days, it's not as useful because I'm not really reading historical reviews on a guest that's already there. So I'm not trying to make this overly complicated, but I did want to introduce, I would say that fact, that dynamic, because when we pin it all there, I think it absorbs some of that available space to again see the conversation that you're in. So I'm not sure if you got any thoughts on that or what may even be possible to maybe even dynamically display some of that information. Depending on
it's a good thought. I appreciate the feedback. We are looking at it. We've got one of our front end engineers is doing actually has kind of carte blanche to make some pretty big changes there. So we've looked at a lot of different designs to really use that space more effectively, and especially looking at mobile in particular to try and make it. We know it needs attention, so we're definitely looking at that, and yeah, that's something to consider. So I appreciate the idea there.
Got it. All right. Well, great stuff. Just quick feedback, the device dashboard rocks. I've always wanted the ability to kind of see what's going on without hopping from app to app. And you guys are totally on the right trajectory there. So thank you.
Cool. Thanks,
Awesome.
Quentin.
Thank you very much, Quentin. Okay, moving on now. Next up, we have Natasha. Welcoming you on stage, Natasha.
Hey guys, can you hear me okay?
Yes, absolutely.
We can, yeah.
Okay, great.
Natasha.
So there were two kind of product features I was kind of really hoping to get. I don't know if there are any other hosts out there who kind of would experience this, but the first thing is, outside of creating a messaging rule, is there any way possible to schedule other messages? Because sometimes I have one-off messages that I would like to send my guests. Like I have a guest who's staying there through for the next 2 weeks, and I have the lawn person is coming next Friday. It's too early for me to send out something like that. I don't necessarily want to create a messaging rule for it, but it would be nice for me to set up a message that will be set to distribute next Wednesday at like 11:07 a.m. or something like that.
For a one-off message. I think
Exactly.
I think this is not. I mean, Emily was was on stage. I think I've heard that several times. The challenge is basically making sure that on the user experience, it's something that you can do very quickly because it's a one-off. So it's basically more of a reminder or something to do in the future.
Mhm.
That's having all the bells and whistles of a messaging rule. But yeah, I would love to have something like that in due time. I don't think that's on the roadmap for the next 3 to 6 months. That's where Emily should probably be coming back up online on stage. But yeah, I think there may be a few ways of making that happen.
Okay, that
Andrew
would be
is
great.
basically, I probably didn't went off script, and I should have said no.
No, in my grandiose plans to completely remake the entire inbox with SMS and WhatsApp integrations, this is on that. We're gonna
The
rip
can
everything out.
response that basically can be scheduling a message in the future that writes itself.
No, it's good. I mean, I understand it can't be done immediately, but even just as a host to know that, you hear me, and it's something that if we do it, we'll put it on the timeline somewhere down the pipe. That's helpful.
Yeah. No, I think like Gmail has done a good job figuring out the UI for that to just schedule a reply instead of sending a reply. So I think from the product side, it's not a super complicated design. So yeah, at the right time, I think was paired with some other inbox updates, it makes sense. So I appreciate that feedback.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank
The
you.
other one feature as well, and again, I don't know if I'm the only host who experiences this, but I've been hosting for all of about 3.5 months so far. So I'm brand spanking new. But I don't quite have a cleaning team that's kind of up to snuff just yet. So I have come to loathe same day turnovers. I thought I read somewhere that Airbnb has a feature where once a reservation comes in, it automatically blocks off that night. I don't know if that's a feature that's possible for Hospitable to do as well. So that way, when it comes to, because I have it listed on both Airbnb as well as Verbal, so that when a reservation does come through Airbnb, Hospitable can just kind of block that night off so nobody can block it for a check-in that night and then push it to my other listing.
Yeah, so there's a lot of specialized kind of availability rules. That's one of them that we don't manage yet on our side.
Okay.
But we've been talking about for a long time. And yeah, we definitely want to get to those. Things like no Saturday check-in. That's another one. We'll actually we kind of use those. So like on direct, we'll pull that in from Airbnb. You don't see it in our product anywhere because we're not really managing that well, but it's still available to you to get used on your direct site. We want to improve that. You should have visibility of that. You should be able to edit that. We should be able to do kind of the advanced availability rules that we're getting sent from Price Labs and not able to forward at the moment. So those have been discussed on the product team, and we're just trying to find the right time to get those on the developers' radar so we can actually build that integration. But those are definitely coming. We are doing some integrations like with Agoda that is in progress. It's going to have more expectations of us managing that rule set, and that work is booked already. So it's coming.
Perfect. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate you listening to me and taking my feedback.
Just sorry, Natasha, if you can stay with us for one more minute. What are the challenges that you face with your team on the cleaning team on the same day turnover? I'm familiar with it, but in your own words.
I think the problem is just so initially my checkout is at 11. I used to have my check-in at 3, and then I bumped it to 4, which I felt was enough time, 5 hours, because I have a 2-bedroom, 1-bath. It's like 817 square feet, so not that big at all. But for some reason, it's just my last clean, I had guests checking out for 2 weeks, and I had a 1 month stay checking in that same night. And it was just a one-off where they locked the garage door so they couldn't get inside the garage. And even though they had what they needed to clean, they weren't able to get it done. My guest didn't even check in until 8 p.m. at night. And my guest was pissed, as he should have been. So it was just, in hindsight, I honestly would rather have just blocked off that night so that, if he wanted to check in, he would check in the very next day. It's something always seems to go wrong with same day cleans, and outside of,
Yeah, that's
I don't know. It's just I have not.
I get it. That's a peak stress moment. If you're like running, sweating everywhere. Yeah, is your cleaning team specialized, having plenty of experience on short-term rentals?
You know what? I found him on Turno, and he said that he has done other cleans in the past. And he's a young guy, very nice guy. But I think
it's not to dunk on them.
He admitted,
basically,
yeah. I think the problem is that when he got locked out, that he couldn't just focus on getting the clean done. But even still, there were two guys. There were four of them. I had my inspector come in. 4 hours later, she said the place was still dusty and dirty, which is very frustrating for me as a host. So, yeah. And I have had other cleans with other cleaning teams, and I think every host can admit cleaning is absolutely one of the toughest parts of the business, just finding a reliable team to get you in. And even if with 5 hours, I would think 5 hours would be okay, but it has not been successful for me.
That's fine. You're gonna find the routine. Thank you, Natasha, for answering my little question. There are some
thank
comments
you.
on the chat
I appreciate
that I
you
believe should be
guys.
sent to everyone. Thank you very much, Natasha.
Thank you very much, Natasha. Okay, now moving on to Emily.
Hello, Emily. How can we help?
Hello. Can you guys hear me?
Perfectly.
Okay, so one of my main things is I'm wondering if to my knowledge, I don't believe this is a possibility at the moment, but assigning messages to teammates.
Can you say just a little bit more? What types of messages to teammates would you like to send?
Any messages that are coming into the inbox from Get. If you would
I think you're talking about what we would call in the contact center industry collision detection. So if people are typing over each other, responding to the same message,
Correct.
Right. Okay. So yeah, this I was actually talking about one of our front-end developers about this. We do have obviously the capability to do that, where we would show you if there's another agent, to keep in the contact center metaphor, in the chat, so you could see that, oh, Emily is in the chat and Emily is typing, and then you would know that you need to not send a message over Emily since she's already typing. Does that get you to what you want, or do you want more of like, I don't think we're going to have like a queue,
that I think would do for now.
Okay.
But eventually it would be great because I have 50 properties, and just as I'm building out my team, I'd like to have people dedicated, to certain types of messages. Maybe it's a new booking, and that can automatically go to Joe. And then if it's just a guest question, maybe that gets pushed to someone else. So that way it's not one person constantly all day and all night responding to all the same messages. It's just kind of a pinpoint at the moment. But
you're bringing up nightmares of my former life.
Yes, it's my nightmare right now. So even, being able to see if someone else is typing, I mean, that would be great.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's an easy win for us. I think doing like an intercom style product or integration is probably something that would lose us some engineers on our side. They would quit. But that's helpful. That's helpful context. And yeah, I think I'll try and prioritize the easy win there. That has been brought up before, and we are talking about it internally already. And we'll think about how we get towards auto distributing, intelligently routing conversations.
And then I've
Okay.
got one other kind of two other
Okay.
things. Lately, this used to not be an issue, but in the last probably month or so, when I'm having a guest extend their stay, say they've already been there for 3 days, they decided they're going to add on a day, their their code has stopped working. So then they'll get back to the property. It's after, their original checkout time, which is 11. They might get back to the property at 1 and their code isn't working. And I've noticed in the lock, it's either not updating it or it's giving them a new code, but it's not getting sent to them. And so then they're just locked out.
Yeah, so that's because, it's essentially what we have is we have a start time, we have an end time for that code of when it's supposed to be active. And after that, we set it for deletion. So I would recommend, if this is happening a lot, to set up a checkout buffer for a few hours. You don't have to let anyone know about it. It doesn't alert them about it, but it'll allow that code to remain active after checkout for a bit longer in case people have like left some item behind. I know I am terrible at doing that constantly. So that I would really recommend setting that up. But you're right. Yeah, we wouldn't be communicating it. The way the communications of it is set up is when you use the smart lock short code, that sends in a message. Otherwise, if you ahead of time, if you haven't sent it, we make sure a code is sent ahead of time so somebody can get in, but it's not really covered like once somebody's already in the door, right? So in this case, I would recommend the buffer.
So
I wanted
buffer though would only, say they extend for an additional 3 days. The buffer wouldn't really cover them for that period. I would then have to go in and manually update it. Is that correct?
No, if they extended their booking, that should that should just update the booking, which will update the code length because when the code is active, because that's based on your check-in and checkout dates as well.
So are you saying if my checkout is 11 and my check-in is 4 and they extend for 3 days, it's between 11 and 4 that the code isn't going to work?
No. So if they're checking in Monday at 11 and checking out Tuesday at 4, and then they extend for 4 more days, then your code should extend for 4 more days to the checkout time of that, the new checkout time and date. Now,
Well, I guess my issue is that that's not happening.
And whenever you're extending the booking, that's after checkout time has already occurred, right?
Correct.
Okay, that's the issue. Yeah. Yeah, that would be the issue because it's already scheduled for deletion. Does that happen a lot, out of curiosity, for you?
Yes.
Where you're extending the booking and it's after checkout time?
No, not after.
Okay.
Well, I mean, sometimes, but no, it's, somebody's been there for a couple days. They decide to extend. It's usually the day prior. But I'm still having issues with them getting locked out.
Okay. Yeah, I think what I would do if I were you, set a buffer in there a few hours to allow people to still get in when they've forgotten things, and then for maybe these kind of rare, it will also kind of cover these rarer instances where maybe 1 hour after checkout, someone's like, please extend my booking. It'll still be active on the lock, but essentially, like we don't want codes to remain active when somebody shouldn't be able to get in, so we don't want to just extend it unnecessarily.
Yeah.
But
Right.
I think there is still something that we can do on our site. That basically, when we have a reactivation, a new reservation, which is a different one with the same guest during the day of the checkout, we're using the same code and making that available as quickly as possible to the guest and on the lock.
Okay.
It's a bit of a fringe case scenario, so thank you for bringing that up. But yeah, I'm curious how we can solve that fringe problem.
Right.
In a way that's going to be obviously allowing your guests to have access.
Okay. And then I have one other thing. I'll be really quick. When I have a guest that I updated my messages to send my check-in information the day prior. And since I did that, if I have same day bookings, my check-in instructions aren't getting sent. Is the only fix to switch that back to sending check-in instructions the same day?
No, they should still get sent. I'm wondering if there might be a particular setup or like something in your settings that you have that's kind of messing things up.
Okay.
Is it actually a before check-in messaging rule? Because those
Yeah.
will always get sent. And do you have any restrictions on it around excluding last minute bookings or specifying a reservation duration or anything like that that could cause it?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah,
I
I
think
would say reach
that's
out to
gonna
our support team and
Okay.
yeah, reach out to our support team and they'll definitely check that out for you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very
That's
much for your
something that
questions.
thank you very much, Anissa and Emily.
Perfect.
Okay, next one.
Yeah, AB, welcoming you on stage.
AB, thank you for everyone waiting. There is really a long queue of people. I think we're gonna add 2-3 more people.
I'll try to.
Abby.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes, perfectly.
All right, awesome. So from New York here, just had a couple of quick questions. I'm new to this whole Airbnb short-term rental. I've been on for about a month with you guys. I'm up to my 4th Airbnb in this month, first month, and
All right.
I'm trying to like get everything streamlined. You know, I did a lot of the messages things. I guess there's a lot more to learn on Hospitable. You guys are great. Just a couple quick things. Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe I'm not. Pricing. So I originally took the API connection between Beyond and connected to Hospitable. And when Hospitable was pushing what I know it was from Beyond to Hospitable and then pushes to the platforms. But like when it was pushing it back to Beyond to say like when someone booked something, like what was the price per night? It was pushing a different pricing than what Hospitable what Beyond used to push. So let's say a customer booked, 2 nights, it was $240, so that's $120 per night. Now, for the same reservation, Hospitable would push back, let's say, 167 a night because the total is 240 plus 90 plus 95, which is for the cleaning fee. So it was including the cleaning fee and the price per night. And I cut the connection between Hospitable and Beyond, and I let Beyond just do the price pushing for now. Did I do something wrong there, or on the pricing and how it's being pushed to Beyond from Hospitable?
So, hey, I don't know if I perfectly followed that, but I think that so I'm typically working on the team that handles the public API, and then Alyssa and her team are working on some reconciliation for financials data across platforms. I think some of what we're doing right now is to bring into alignment how we're sharing information in our public API. So, like the accommodation, for example, is that the nightly rate minus discounts, or what is it? Or is the fee included or not? And platforms handle that differently, like Airbnb and Vrbo handle that differently. And we had also just kind of passed through what they were giving us. And we're making an effort now to make sure that it's aligned and we're aligning it so that what our integration partners expect is the same regardless of the platform it's coming from. So for your specific issue, I don't know that one specifically is fixed yet, but that's like an active project that we're working on now. And I can even reach out to Beyond. I'll shoot them a message after this and get a little bit more details on that and make sure that they have the information they need to handle.
Awesome, I appreciate that. If you need a screenshot, I took a screenshot. I sent it to Brian. I think his name is Brian from the team at Hospitable. Brian Silos.
Yeah, I'll check with him.
So he has a screenshot of the two. The other question I had was, I know this isn't in the plan for now. It may be some, one-off. Is there a way we can create like auto message replies for certain times, similar to like how Outlook has? Like, let's say you go on vacation and you set your auto reply to internal and external on Outlook to say send a reply from Friday 11 a.m. till Monday 9 a.m. and say send this reply when someone reaches out on Outlook. So let's say you go somewhere that you're going to be really hard to reach, and it automatically sends a reply to the guest, so you're still within the 24-hour response rate, saying, oh, I may be a little out of touch, but I'm going to try to get back to you as quickly as possible.
Over any message that will be sent your way during that window. So an out of office reply.
I listen, we're never out of office, in today's day, because everyone's connected 24/7. But slight out of office, like, oh, sorry, I may be out of office. Please give me a little bit of time to reply.
Yeah, it's been 7 years of that feature request. I want to work on a deal, and it's basically continuing to work on AI so that basically we can give the right response to your guests while you are on vacation. What I really I don't like the idea of sending an out of office like, hey, I'm not available. When you are a host, you are available, period. You
Of
can go
course.
on vacation, but you have to be there. And you may not be reachable, then you have to have someone, obviously, with boots on the ground, you're responsible for your guest. I appreciate definitely, I don't want to be interrupted every single day of every single hour. It basically is completely unrealistic, and especially working as such with teams. It's very important to have good boundaries there. But I rather want to work on AI to basically see how much of this conversation we can have fully running in the background, behind the scenes, without your involvement, because we're able to fetch a history of the reservation, your property, and able to elaborate a little bit more of a message. And that's perfectly aligned with the ethics of a product, rather than basically, sending an out of office.
Yeah.
You send an out of office or an autoresponder message, you probably will want to share, if you have an urgent inquiry, share your phone number.
Absolutely.
Every time for any question, that guest will now call you.
Yeah, I agree.
There is literally no boundary whatsoever. So what I think it's basically a better path to be investing on AI, and allow you to take some vacation, have a report whenever you're available to know what really needs your attention, rather than sending a message like, this is Comcast, you have reached Comcast customer support, please wait in line. I'm sorry,
just to let them know you're there for them.
them.
Just let them know, like, you're there for them. Listen, please give me maybe 6 hours to reply, as opposed to like when I'm typically replying in 30 minutes. That's what the auto reply is kicking in, or
Yeah.
I know.
I can tell you about customers having to wait 6 hours.
Oh yeah, I have ADD, so I like to answer within 3 minutes.
I same personally, it doesn't scale really well. Thank you. Thank you for that input. That's being heard loud and clear.
Thank you, Pete. And one last quick thing: Igloo locks. This is for the locks team.
Soon.
Okay, perfect.
Sooner or later.
Yeah, because I know
there's
there's
sooner or later.
Sooner or later. We have Igloo locks.
We have it.
Yeah, it's like
I got them in still.
The Igloo locks don't have Wi-Fi because everything's Bluetooth with them. So I guess you got to create a bridge, right?
Well, you don't have to create one. You can buy one. So there is a Wi-Fi bridge that you can buy to make those available. The reason that we don't support Bluetooth only connections is there are some really significant limitations on it, including like much more more limited codes that can be on there. We couldn't even delete them until you're in Bluetooth range. There's like a lot of different things.
Bad.
So I would recommend getting a hub.
Get a hub,
get
get
that
a
on
bridge.
Wi-Fi. Yep,
I agree.
It'll be good.
Get a bridge for $75 and it'll attach to all the locks in the area. And then I could use you guys for the phone number for the auto for the lock code.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks, Alyssa. Thanks, guys. You guys are awesome.
Okay.
Really, so. What are we doing? We're well over the line.
Yeah, we are well over time, unfortunately.
And now we need to get to the next meeting. Thank you very much, everyone. I'm sorry we didn't get to the list. So DW, Sergio, Lloyd, Tommy, GOT, Sati, Domarius, SA iPhone. I don't know who that is. Send me an email to anytime if you have a question to pc@hospitable.com. If there's something you would like to bring up, I'd be happy to distribute that to the relevant person in the company. So yeah, sorry for that. But thank you so very much for sticking with us. And sorry for those fuck ups that keep on happening between. It's been quite a few weeks on our side between the security incidents, between that outage with the billing thing, and a lot of other incidents. So it's also important to keep in mind that we are still working on products and we're still releasing plenty of new features. And we're setting the foundation for basically something that will make you happy overall and getting more benefits at Hospitable. So thank you so very much, everyone. And stay tuned for next week, 2 weeks from now. I know it's every 2 weeks. Same place, same time. Thank you very much. Have a great day.